What is up everyone, Movie back again with another video, and today I'm going to be doing another end of month vlog video where I just talk about all the movies and TV shows that I watched in the month of March 2024. Now before I get into it guys, there was some sad news in the YouTube, BlueTube movie community lately. Dave Oliver, who had the channel Savage Zombie Reviews, sadly lost his life. And I'm not going to get into the details or anything like that, but you know, it seemed very sudden and unexpected. And you know, Nige Rockdog 2004 asked me if I wanted to do a video clip in his tribute video, which is a wonderful video, by the way, guys. I'll leave the link down below to go and check that out. But I didn't feel right doing that because I only really commented on Dave's videos a couple of times. He did get back to me, of course, and I seen him on a couple of live streams. I didn't have the interaction that them guys had with him, you know, Scott and everyone. So I didn't feel right doing that, but I just felt right, put my own little, you know, remembrance here, if you like, a little few words for Dave before I get into the video, because it's sad. You know, I thought he was a great YouTuber. I really liked his Elm Street reviews. I think I watched all of them, to be honest. And I used to like his news segments when he come up with the horror news and stuff. And he just seemed like a really nice guy. Looked like someone I could get along with. My regret is not really getting to know him a little bit more. But, you know, it's sad. It really is. I think he was very young, you know, in his early 40s, I believe. So, yeah, I just wanted to put something out on this video. It just, I feel like, you know, just to say my little bit for Dave. So, Dave, rest in peace, mate. AKA Savage Zombie Reviews, Dave Oliver. Okay guys, let's just get into it now with the first thing that I watched in March, and this is definitely straight out the bat my new release of the month, and that is Dune Part 2. Now, I wasn't massive on the first Dune movie when I first watched it, but I rewatched it again last month on 4K, and then I watched it again because my wife wanted to watch it, so I did watch it twice towards the end of the month, and it definitely grew on me a hell of a lot. And once you understand the lore, the story, the characters, it's a really enjoyable story to go along with, and that's where I was kind of getting lost a little bit the first time I watched it, but now I kind of get what's going on. It's just a better movie on rewatch, and it really got me hyped to go in for Dune 2 with all the early buzz, all the early reviews, you know, people saying 10 out of 10 and everything. And I tried to manage my expectations with that, because we all know that old pitfall you can fall into. But no, this movie exceeded my expectations, to be honest. I had a great time with this movie. I just loved it, every bit of it. You know, I think it just built on the first movie in every single way possible. It continued this brilliant story, introducing new characters that were all interesting, like Florence Pugh's character and stuff, and then bringing in the older characters again, you know, seeing where they're up to and stuff. And I just think this world Denis Villeneuve has built, obviously it's not his story, but you know, the world that he's managed to put on screen there for us as a viewer, a newcomer to the Dune story to follow, I just think he's done an absolutely exceptional job. There's a moment in this film where someone kind of rides a sandworm, and it is, wow, goosebumps, man. It was just a brilliant movie, I thought. I will be amazed if this gets knocked off my #1 spot of the year, because I just don't know if anything's going to come close to it, but hey ho, you never know, do you? But yeah, I'm really interested to see where this story is going to go in Part 3 now. Austin Butler was great as the villain in this movie as well, and something happens like toward the final scenes, and I was like, holy shit, let's go. You know, when something was about to happen there. But yeah, I thought this was exceptional. I really did. The cinematography, the score, the direction, the acting across the board. I mean, I don't really have much to say in way of negativity about this movie. I can't quite put it on the 10 out of 10 scale, but it's probably a 9.5 for me. Yeah, I just thought it was brilliant. Really, if you have not seen Dune or Dune Part 2, and you've seen the first one, do not hesitate any longer, guys. Get into this world now, because I do feel like once this is done, it might be on the scale of the Lord of the Rings trilogy or the original Star Wars trilogy. I don't know, but it's looking that way. And hopefully Denis Villeneuve can hit it home with the third one. So that is Dune Part 2, my new release of the month. Now guys, if you remember my last month's video, I did start watching the Friday the 13th movies. Now, I am very familiar with Chucky, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, but this is a franchise that I just haven't watched for a very, very long time. I just never gravitated towards it as much as them films, although I have seen the first movie about 100 times. I mean, it's one of the very first horror movies I watched. I always went back to the first movie, but I haven't watched these since the DVD days, and I definitely needed a rewatch of these movies. It's just been such a long time, and as soon as I watched Friday the 13th Part 2, I was very excited to carry on this franchise. Although, this is the only one I've watched this month because a couple of other franchises got in the way and I wanted to talk about them on my horror channel and stuff like that. But I have watched a couple of more Friday the 13th movies this month, so you'll hear about them next month. But the only one I'm going to talk about this month is Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. According to some people, this is the best Friday the 13th movie, and I just don't see that, unfortunately. Look, I had a good time with it. I just don't see the big hype surrounding this film at all. I definitely enjoyed 3, 2, and 1 more than this. But yeah, it's fine. I rewatched it again in April just to make sure that I wasn't wrong about it, and it did improve a little bit on rewatch, and I'll probably talk about it again next month. I thought some of the characters were okay here, but some of them were just terrible. Like, what's his name off Back to the Future, man? Crispin Glover. He is by far the worst character I have seen in this series up to now, and I have actually watched Part 5, in April, and he is the worst character. That movie has some wacky characters, man, but what the fuck was this guy doing? I mean, the way he was dancing was just hilarious. The way he was getting so wound up, the way he was getting called a dead fuck all the time by his friend. And then he slept with that girl later on in the movie, and he went, I gotta ask you something. Am I a? And I was like, don't say it. Don't ask it if you're a dead fuck, please. And he went, am I a dead fuck? My God, he was such a dork in this movie. He was terrible. And he went on to be in one of the best trilogies ever, so blows my mind, man. But yeah, some great actors and stuff really got their early careers in these horror movies, didn't they? Like Johnny Depp and Elm Street and stuff. But I thought there was some okay kill moments in here. The one on the boat where the chick went for a naked swim and stuff, and then Jason pulls the knife over the boat. I thought that was awesome. But the whole Tommy Jarvis thing with Corey Feldman just didn't work for me at all. I mean, because he goes and shaves his head at the end, I was like, really? That's how he's going to get in the mind of Jason? It was just silly to me. It was. But it was a fine Friday the 13th movie. This is the easiest franchise in the world to watch. They're all 90 minutes, most of them anyway. 90 odd minutes, if anything. And they just fly by. They are the easiest films to watch ever. So I don't be surprised in April if I've watched them all by then. But that is Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. Don't love it as much as everyone else. Next up, we have a Blu-ray here, and I went through this whole franchise, so I'm going to talk about them all here in this video, guys. But that is my older release of the month, and that is Ghostbusters. Now, if you want to see me talk about all of the Ghostbusters movies, I'll leave the link to my other channel down below. I know they're not really horror movies, but they are gateway horror for kids, I suppose. Just some moments, especially in Ghostbusters 1 and 2. So I just thought this is my chance to talk about them with the new one coming out. And I've always wanted to review these movies anyway. But I'll leave the link to that playlist down below. But this, the more I watch this, the better it gets. This is just perfectly well written. Every scene counts. Every piece of dialogue counts. The characters on screen, the chemistry is excellent, spot on. And this is just an absolute staple of the 80s. I love the way it's like a kind of like an underdog story with these guys who basically they're not even, I don't even think they're quite sure they believe it themselves, but they open a business up and it's just not happening for them. And next minute it booms a little bit and they become celebrities and then eventual saviors of New York. I think it's a really good underdog to champion story, really. But great comedy in this, great moments trying to capture Slimer in the hotel and stuff, the ghost at the start. And how can we forget the big, deep backstory that, they could have just went with, oh, they're going to capture ghosts, but there's a real sort of creepy story in the background there involving Gozer and, the Traveller, the Marshmallow Man, which is just great. Yeah, I don't really have anything negative to say about this film at all. I just think it's fantastic. One of the greatest films ever made. One of the best films out the 80s anyway, so that is Ghostbusters. Next up I have Ghostbusters 2 on 4K. Now the reason I've got this on 4K and the first one is on Blu-ray, at the time I bought Ghostbusters, you could not get Ghostbusters 2 on Blu-ray. And then they brought the 4K format out and they brought Ghostbusters 1 and 2 on 4K out. And I already had Ghostbusters on Blu-ray. I said something to my wife about it. I went, oh, that's really annoying. And then she just bought me Ghostbusters 2 for my birthday one year. So yeah, watch this on 4K. Not a bad looking 4K, by the way. Now, I used to love this movie. I used to be my go-to Ghostbusters film. I used to love it more than the first one as a kid. And over time, that has changed. However, I still have a good time with this movie. I think there's some great moments. Probably the creepiest out of the Ghostbusters movies, if you want to go there, with Janos being the baby napper and stuff, and then you got Vigo with the creepy painting and stuff like that. I love the whole River of Slime story, and the chemistry between the characters is great again. Once again, they pick it back up here. However, I just think it retreads the first film in every single way involving the story. Now, what I mean by that is the Ghostbusters were saviors of New York in the first film, and here they're back down to the bottom. They're doing kids' birthdays and stuff, and then something has to happen for people to start believing in them again, and then they go and be celebrities, and then they go and save New York once again. I mean, it even uses the Statue of Liberty instead of the Marshmallow Man and swaps that with evil and good, some big giant thing walking through the streets of New York there, and it even revives the Venkman and Dana Barrett storyline. I mean, he left. They don't really give a full reason why in this movie. She's gonna have a kid with some guy who's just gone off to his job, and then they rekindle their romance again. I mean, couldn't have Oscar just been Peter Venkman's baby in this and we avoided all that? Did we really have to retread that old ground as well? Also, Dana, where she is the first victim of the slime in this movie, where her pram comes alive at the start. I mean, of all the people in New York, it just happened to be Dana Barrett again, who's already went through this ordeal. But yeah, it's a fun movie though. There's some great scenes, like the courtroom scene with the Scolari brothers and stuff like that. And like I said, I love the whole River of Slime story. So it's not bad. It's not a bad sequel. I just see the problems with it when I rewatch it, but I still have fun with it. So that's Ghostbusters 2. Next up, we have Ghostbusters Afterlife, my first rewatch since the cinema, and it did come down for me a little bit, but I still really enjoyed this movie. I will talk about 2016 in just a second. I just wanted to watch this one first because it feels like more of a trilogy, because it is connected to the first two films. I like all the new characters in this. I like the location. I like the way Jason Reitman used the location, to his full advantage there. Definitely a different setting to New York, but the way he shoots the Ecto-1, just flying across the cornfields and the countryside, I thought that all worked. The great scene as well where they catch a muncher and stuff, loved all that. And yeah, it was fine. I just think this one does what the second one does a little bit, involving the story. I mean, it's just bringing Gozer back, and couldn't we have just done something new there with the villains? I think it played it very, very safe at times. And I think the ending didn't quite work for me as much this time. I mean, it still works, but it just seems a little bit more cheesy, I suppose, compared to the first time I watched it. With involving Egon and stuff like that. But it's a good. I prefer this over the second one. Put it that way. There's a lot to like here, and yeah, a little bit different with the location. Just feels like a little bit of a different Ghostbusters movie, I suppose. But yeah, I like this one. That is Ghostbusters Afterlife. And I'm going to be holding this one up a few times, guys, because I've got 3 movies in this box set to talk about here. But the first one I'm going to talk about, obviously, is the original, and that is the Omen. So we did have the first Omen coming out, and at the time of this recording, I have just been to see it. Well, I'll talk about that more next month, but we do have the Omen, the original here. Now, I've always loved this movie. I think it's one of the greatest horror movies ever made, and I was really looking forward to revisiting it again. And I got to say, the first hour of this film is just perfection. It flies by. The pacing is solid. There's always something happening, always something creepy going on with this kid, and you get more and more intrigued about Damien, because of course he is the son of the devil. You got the nanny jumping out the window, you got that big spire coming down and going through that priest, you got Damien trying to kill his own mother, really. And it's just constantly creepy. Mrs. Baylock, played by Billy Whitelaw, is exceptional in this film. I think she's the most underrated character in this movie. Everyone talks about Gregory Peck and, Lee Remick, how great the performances are. And they are. They are. But I just think she's the standout character. The second half of the movie, the next 45, seems to take longer than the first hour. And I didn't really notice this a lot of the times watching this, but this time I did. It's just a fact-finding adventure with Gregory Peck and David Warner's character. And there are some good scenes in the second half of the movie, of course, the decapitation scene and, the pushing out the window scene and stuff. But a lot of it is just learning new facts about Damien. And it's like that for a long time. And I think it slows the pacing down a little bit. But still an exceptional movie. I still love The Omen. So, yeah, a staple in horror history. That is The Omen. Next up, I watched the worst movie I have seen all month and one of the worst movies of the year, and that was Blumhouse's Imaginary. Oh, I was really looking forward to this. I think I put it in my top 10 most anticipated horror movies of the year over on my horror channel. I just thought it looked quite good, my type of thing. But man, this movie was just so dull, and the more it went on, the more I hated it. I've heard a lot of people say they enjoyed the second half or the third act more than the first hour, but not for me. I preferred the other one, and nothing even happened in the first hour. This is basically about a family who move into a house. That's becoming a horror trope now, isn't it? Move to a new house and all weird stuff happens, and there's this bear called Chauncey who the young girl befriends, and they start to play a few games around the house and stuff, and everything seems sweet. And then this Chauncey character starts making her do stupid stuff like hurting herself or, just making these weird objects and stuff. And it's all about like her stepmom's trying to connect with her and the older sister and stuff like that. So there's a little bit of family drama going on. The film uses creativity well, I think, because it's all about your imagination and it plays on that. The stepmother in this is like a creative illustrator, and it plays on that all well, I think. And the imaginary friend and stuff like that, and the mother sort of had an imaginary friend when she used to live in this house years ago and stuff like that. All was done well, but apart from that, I mean, this movie just took forever to get where it was going, and the second half had some really Hellbound, Hellraiser 2 vibes going on. I just didn't care for it at all. I mean, I just wanted it to finish. When it went into this third act, I was like, this is terrible. I hated this movie, and I just do not recommend it. It was way worse than I thought it could be. Night Swim is a fucking masterpiece compared to this. Jason Blum, sort the shit out, man, because you've got some good tricks up your sleeve, but stop churning out these pieces of garbage every now and again. This was one of the worst horror movies, I have ever seen at the cinema. So that is Imaginary. Next up, we have Ghostbusters 2016. Now, this is a movie that I really don't mind too much. I know a lot of people don't like it for certain reasons. I can't tell anyone what to think about Ghostbusters 2016. That is up to you. But I've watched this twice now, and I had a good time with it each time. I think the comedy works really well for at least half the movie. Then it does start to drag on a little bit. There's a joke every other scene, but some of it is funny. I really like Kristen Wiig as an actress. She always makes me laugh. And this is just a simple little Ghostbusters movie. I can see why people are pissed off about it, but I'm not the biggest Ghostbusters fan in the world. I'm a casual Ghostbusters fan, so it doesn't bother me all that much. If I went to cinema at the time to see it, I might have been a little bit more pissed off, but I watched it way after it came out. And yeah, I had a fun time with it. I did. I think it's just got a little bit of charm. I think these characters work well on screen together. I mean, they're not Egon Venkman and stuff. They're not them characters at all, but it's fine. I think the third act is a little bit CGI heavy, and the villain is weak, but overall, it's fine. It's fine. That's all it is. It's 3 out of 5 movie for me. So that is Ghostbusters 2016. Next up, I watched a movie called The Outfit, and this was brought to my attention when I watched Chris Stuckman's Top 10 of 2022, I believe it was, and he had The Outfit on there, and I thought, that sounds like a really good movie. This is basically about this guy who makes suits, and he kind of makes them for the mafia, and there's mafia going in and out of his shop, and he turns a blind eye to it and stuff like that. And this is Mark Rylance's character, who owns this suit store, this tailor store, if you like. And you know what? I just didn't love it as much as Chris or a lot of other people who've told me to watch this movie, to be honest. It was fine. It all takes place in this store. But I just thought a little, like, I seen through some of the acting in this movie, some of the characters, and it felt like a theatre play. That's what it felt like to me. It didn't feel like a movie. So I didn't think Mark Rylance was all that amazing in it, to be honest. I mean, a lot of people praise his performance in this. He's okay, but I don't think it was anything standout or anything like that. There was some edgy of your seat moments involving people getting hit, and then you're like, holy shit, what's going to happen next? How are they going to get out of this situation? But overall, it didn't do too much for me, I'm afraid. It was okay. It's on Netflix now. Some people love this movie and will like it a lot more than I did, but I just thought it was okay. So that is The Outfit. Next up, we have Immaculate, starring Sydney Sweeney, and I didn't see any trailers or anything going into this. And this is a religious horror movie, which isn't usually my full-on go-to horror movie. Like the Omen and stuff is fine, but when it all takes place in cathedrals and churches, and in this case, was it a nunnery? I can't remember. Whatever you call it. But Sydney Sweeney wants to devote her life to God and become this nun. And she goes to this place where these nuns are, a convent, is it? Is that the right word? And devote her life to God, basically. And she seems like there's some dark secrets involving this place. And she soon gets to the bottom of it, really. And the third act is just absolutely batshit insane. And I didn't see it coming at all. And I had so much fun with a third act. There is a little bit of a slow burn building up to it. It's only a 90-minute movie. And, you know, there's some jump scares that don't quite work for me. It feels kind of generic, your generic horror movie for that first hour. But the third act definitely picked it up. The whole full ending didn't quite work for me, although it does work for some people. I think you're going to be very mixed on that. But there was some great acting in that final few scenes there from Sydney Sweeney. She's got acting chops, I can tell you that. So I had a good time with this. I thought it was fine. But yeah, something a little bit different from the religious horror subgenre, because you think it's going to go one way and it kind of goes in a different direction in that last 30 minutes, which I appreciated. So yeah, I had a good time with this. Thought it was fine. That is The Immaculate. Next up, we have Hounds of Love from Arrow Video, and I've wanted to watch this for a while because each Australian movie I watch just seems to have this sense of realism to it, and they always seem to be crime movies. Knitram, Snowtown Murders, just to name a couple off the top of my head there. And this one feels very reminiscent to them films. This is about a couple who are kidnapping girls in Australia. I think it might have been the early 90s, I think. And they're just going around picking these girls up and taking them to the house and then tying them up and doing all sorts to them. And it's a very depressing film, but it basically focuses on this one girl who's gone missing and her mother, and everyone is looking for her all around the city, basically. And the kidnappers are just like, you sort of take a look into their lives and how control can take over if someone is a little bit heightened than the other one and stuff like that. But there's it's a movie with realism. I mean, I kind of love movies like that where it just feels real, and these Australian movies just seem to do it for me. I was thinking about this movie for days after. I felt dirty after watching it, but I knew I'd seen something that opened my eyes a little bit, and it just gives it off that true life, because I think it's based on a true story, is horrible. Humans are the biggest monsters that you can have in any movie, and I always think that, I don't think this movie's scary, but humans really do make you think the actions they are capable of, really. So yeah, I thought this was, if you like bleak, depressing thriller dramas, I would give this a go, because it done the job for me. So that is Hounds of Love. Next up, we have Damien, The Omen 2. Now, this is a sequel I liked the first time I watched it a few years ago, and I was looking forward to revisiting it again. We see Damien, who's at a military school in this one, a little bit older, and he is basically, his plan is sort of still in place. He's becoming part of this business that his father owned, and now his uncle owns it, and he lives with his uncle and his cousin Mark, who's his best friend. And it looks like he's going to be in there and sort of take this company on, getting into a little bit of power. So that all plays out in the background there, but people start to find out about Damien in this movie and basically have some Final Destination type deaths in there. Now, I think this is an entertaining film. I think the acting is spot on. I think the young kid in this film, I forgot his damn name. I'm really sorry. Um, I thought he'd done a good job as Damien. It was a good transition from the first film. And, it's an entertaining, well-paced movie. But it does a lot of things that the first film does. People find out about Damien and are killed, and so on and so on. And it kind of repeats itself there. But there are some good deaths in here, like the woman who gets her eyes poked out by the crows, and we also have the guy who gets cut in half by the elevator. One of the best movie deaths I've ever seen, and no one talked about it. I think this is a good, solid sequel. It's fine. It does a job, and it's way better than you can probably expect, because some of them classic horror movies don't have the best sequels, in my opinion. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, The Exorcist 2, the worst movie I've ever seen. But this one is way better than them movies and on a different level to them sequels. And they were 70s, I believe. Well, The Exorcist 2 definitely was anyway. But yeah, the Omen 2 is fine. So that is the Omen 2. Next up, we have Late Night with the Devil. And I gotta say, this was really a surprising film for me. I liked the whole sound of it, where it was all going to be a talk show and we were going to see the last videotape that was recorded of this talk show, kind of like a found footage, but not really. And we're kind of watching it like it is a TV show for now, but this David the Malchian's carrier, Jack Delroy, I knew that name. His viewings are dwindling a little bit, and he plans a big comeback on Halloween night, and he's going to get all these weird guests and these paranormal investigators and stuff onto the show for a big Halloween special and try and boost ratings. And on that night, something goes terribly wrong, and it's the build up to that in the third act, really. But what I really liked about this is David the Malchian's character. He's only really played side parts and stuff, but here he is the TV host of this show, and I felt like I'd been watching him for years as this TV show host. He kind of talks to you as a viewer, who tunes in every week, basically. I thought he was great in the main role. I love the whole 70s style of this show. The look of it, the set design, everything about it just felt 70s to me. It had that little grain on it at times and stuff. The guests on the show were great. I thought, each person brought something different to the movie. It was just the last 10 minutes where they kind of lost me, unfortunately. And I hate that it done that. And it has worked for some other people. Don't let me put you off this movie by saying the last 10 minutes didn't work for me. It will work for a lot of other people. I just got Be Always Afraid vibes off it, the way it was doing it and stuff. But, I think this is one of the best horror movies I've seen so far this year. The third act is great. I mean, apart from the last 10 minutes, but when we start to get into all the nitty gritty horror, I thought it was excellent. So that is Late Night with the Devil, a real surprise for this year. Next up, we have Ghostbusters Frozen Kingdom. Now, this is a movie I was really looking forward to after really liking Afterlife. And I thought it was fine. I think the first hour of this film really is a bit of a drag, because it's setting up lots of different stories. There are so many characters in this film, way more than there needed to be. We've got the new Ghostbusters, we've got the old Ghostbusters coming into it, and we've got new characters as well that kind of play a big part of the main story. Now, I think Ray really got a good movie here. He's kind of the forefront of the old Ghostbusters, and I thought he'd done a fine job. I liked all his story and stuff. I liked the way we went back to New York. I think Afterlife was a great location, but it's a one and done. New York feels like a Ghostbusters movie. That's where a Ghostbusters movie should take place. And the last hour of the film really did pick it up and started to feel like a real Ghostbusters movie. And that's where the most fun was to be had. But there's some side stories here, like the Trevor story. It's just throwaway. There's no point in that for me, really. There's also McKenna Grace, who is the best character in Afterlife here. There's a story involving her where she's talking to this ghost, and that just didn't work for me at all. Like, I think it kind of made a mockery of the ghost and stuff, and ghost busting, the whole title of the movie. That just didn't work for me at all. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but that storyline was just terrible. But there are some great storylines as well with other characters, so it's a little bit of a mismatch there, but it was fine. I had a good time with it. It's not as good as Afterlife, but I'd say I preferred it over 2016, put it that way. I would watch this again. I'm looking forward to picking it up on 4K and giving it another go. But yeah, I thought it was okay. So that is Ghostbusters Frozen Kingdom. Next up, we have Roadhouse starring Jake Gyllenhaal. And the main reason I wanted to watch this is for Conor McGregor. Now, I got to be honest, guys, this is just one of the most popular movies I've never seen in Roadhouse. Yeah, shoot me. I've never seen it. I know that's a very bad movie fan take there, if you like. I've just never got round to it, and I know it's a popular 80s movie and stuff like that. I've just never got round to it. But I went into this one, I just thought, you know what, I'm going to watch this, because a lot of people were talking about it, and this is basically Jake Gyllenhaal. He was hired, like, he's a tough guy, and he's hired to protect this bar, this roadhouse in Florida, and these people just will not stop trying to tear down this roadhouse because it's in the way of what they really want to build, and they can't really get to this Jake Gyllenhaal character. So Conor McGregor comes along halfway through and tries to take him down. And Conor McGregor's acting is terrible in this movie. I don't care what anyone says, but he was still fun. I suppose I thought Jake Gyllenhaal done well and carried this movie a lot. He was ripped to fuck in this movie, and he really, really got into that tough guy image. I suppose the location and stuff was fine, but like on the seaside and stuff like that, there was some really cool moments that hark back to the 80s, where these guys walking the roadhouse the first night Jake Gyllenhaal is hired, and Jake Gyllenhaal just kicks their ass. Loved all that. But I think the movie's a little bit like 30 minutes longer than it needs to be, and it started to feel a little bit familiar as the movie went on. But overall, it was fine. A lot of people are complaining about the CGI and the fights and stuff, and I do see that. But it was fine. It was a fun enough movie. So that is Roadhouse. Next up, we have The Omen 3, The Final Conflict, starring Sam Neill. Now, what I appreciate about this film is that it went in a little bit of different direction. So the first two movies play on characters finding out about Damien and dying in mysterious circumstances. But in this one, we already have these characters at the start who know who Damien is and are out to kill him. And they're going to get the 7 daggers of Megiddo, the only things that can kill him, and go all out and try and kill him. And I appreciated that story take, doing something a little bit different there and shaking it up a little bit. And Damien is kind of a lot older now. He's in a position of power, and he's in with the president and everything. So, yeah, I appreciated all that. The only problem is these people who go out to kill Damien are the worst assassins in the world. They are so terrible. Sam Neill's acting at times is good, and then other times where he has to do these monologues and stuff, it doesn't quite work. I think the ending to this film is terrible as well. Like, it's so anticlimactical. But there are some hard-hitting scenes in here involving infants and stuff, which I was like, holy shit, this movie's going for it. And I like the fact that Christ was coming, like his second coming was there, and Damien was like, holy shit, like he's got something to deal with there. So that was interesting. It's a fine Omen movie. I think I prefer the first two, but this one isn't too far behind. I thought it was okay. That is The Omen 3, The Final Conflict. Next up, we have Omen 4, The Awakening, and this time we've got a young girl in this movie who is the Antichrist instead of Damien. And this is a made-for-TV movie. I believe it was going to be a trilogy, and then they decided not to do that because of the bad press that this movie got. And it does have a very TV feel to it. Everything is downgraded in every way possible. It's a very low-budget Omen movie. That's what it is. The acting isn't great in this film, apart from Michael Lerner, the guy from Blank Check and Elf. He is the only standout character in this movie. The death scenes are kind of cut away, and I just wasn't feeling the dark atmosphere or aurora around Delia compared to Damien in the first 3 films. So unfortunately, guys, this was just the worst Omen movie I've seen. I have seen the remake and the first Omen, but I'm going to talk about them next month because that's when I watched them. but this is the worst one by a mile. It's just not good. I can't really think of too many good things about it, apart from the last 20 minutes where it does try to tie into the original Omen a little bit. But you can definitely avoid this one. It's just, it's not good. It's not good. So that is The Omen 4, The Awakening. And last up, guys, we do have a TV show that me and my wife have absolutely loved on a Saturday night for the past 2 months. And I don't really watch TV all that much, apart from maybe Match of the Day now and again. But this was Gladiators. Oh my God, I loved this show. We used to look forward to it all the time, and I am so sad it's finished. But it's just great. I used to watch this as a kid, and for them to bring it back with all these great gladiators and, you know, challenges to come up, it was just so much fun. I highly recommend you watch it on iPlayer if you're interested in the slightest. But we do have season 2 coming next year, sorry, and I can't wait for that. I'm going to be watching it again. I really want to apply for this. Don't know what to do. I mean, I don't know how fit I am for that. I mean, I'm into my fitness and stuff, but I would love to go on this. I just want to run up that travelator. But yeah, Gladiators was such a fun time. Loved it. One of the best things they put on TV in years. So that is Gladiators. Hey guys, hope you all enjoyed this end of month vlog. What do you think of these movies and TV shows? Let me know in the link down below. Thanks so much, guys. You take care, and I'll see you on the next video.